to you. Sir.
Congratulations. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Bonjour tout le monde. Tout d'abord, je tiens à féliciter Tatiana Auguste, Daniel Martin et Dolly Begum pour leur élection en tant que nouvelle députée de Terrebonne, University-Rosedale et Scarborough Sud-Ouest. Et je tiens également à remercier tous les candidats qui se sont présentés, quel que soit leur parti. Ce faisant, vous avez renforcé notre démocratie à un moment décisif for the Canada. Yesterday, voters placed their trust in Canada's new government's plan. We accept their support with humility, determination, and a clear understanding of what this moment demands for our country. Afin de répondre aux attentes des Canadiens en temps de rapidité et d'ampleur. Le travail qui nous attend nécessite de la collaboration, du partenariat et de l'ambition. C'est ainsi que nous continuerons à gouverner. Nous travaillerons avec tous les partis et tiendrons compte de tous les points de vue au Parlement. The world is more divided and dangerous. The impacts of foreign conflicts and accelerating technological change are increasingly being felt here at home. And Canada's new government will continue to focus on what we can control, building a strong Canadian economy, diversifying our trading partners abroad to increase our independence and support our prosperity, delivering responsible fiscal management, and supporting Canadians who are under pressure from everyday expenses, with a boost today and a bridge to a better tomorrow. We've been moving fast and we're getting results. Nous avons établi 20 partenariats économiques et de sécurité sur 5 continents en moins d'un an. We've already announced 15 nation-building initiatives that will create over 500,000 jobs and drive over $100 billion in new investment. Our new defense industrial strategy will catalyze $500 billion of investment to build Canadian industry from aerospace to AI, while creating over 125,000 new jobs. Build Canada Homes has already committed to deals for over 10,000 new homes, and it's just getting started. Through the new Build Community Strong Fund, we'll work with provinces and municipalities to build new hospitals, public transit, and community centres. Because Canada Strong means Kelowna strong, Brampton strong, et Laval fort. And this fund will also lower costs for Canadians. For example, slashing taxes and charges on new homes in Ontario by up to $200,000. We're building Canada into an energy superpower with measures to double the size of our electricity grid and harness our immense natural resources for reliable, affordable, clean power for all Canadians. Nous bâtissons un Canada fort, un Canada qui n'est pas réservé à quelques-uns, mais qui est pour tous, en tout temps. We'll build a Canada that's not just strong, but good, not just prosperous, but fair, not just for some most of the time, but for all of the time. We're building big, we're moving fast, and we're just getting started. But we also know that the road ahead will not always be straight. There'll be bumps, steep climbs along the way, and some of the payoffs from these big investments will take some time to be realized. And we know that Canadians are feeling the pressures of everyday expenses right now. We know they need a boost today and a bridge to tomorrow. And that's why Canada's new government has been relentlessly focused on making life more affordable for Canadians. We started as we meant to go on. On the first day, we canceled the divisive consumer carbon tax, driving prices down on gas by 18 cents per litre. We cut taxes for 22 million middle-class Canadians, saving families up to $840. Cut taxes on first-time home buyers, saving up to $50,000 by the elimination of GST on new homes priced under $1 million. More than 12 million Canadians will have more money in their bank accounts this summer up to $1,800 per family through our new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. 5 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes à faible revenu vont obtenir les prestations auxquelles ils ont droit grâce au lancement de versements automatiques de prestations fédérales. De plus, 400 000 enfants ont accès à des repas sains, tandis que leurs parents économisent $800 par année en épicerie parce que nous avons rendu permanent le programme national d'alimentation scolaire. Grâce à notre nouveau partenariat stratégique avec la Chine, nous mettrons à disposition de dizaines de milliers de véhicules électriques à prix abordable au Canada. Nous avons renforcé la concurrence dans le secteur des télécommunications pour réduire le coût de l'accès à l'Internet haute vitesse pour les Canadiennes et les Canadiens. Pour vous. Now, we all know that because of the war with Iran, fuel prices have increased sharply around the world, including right here in Canada. So we're taking more action to help build that bridge over short-term pressures. With the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Natural Resources, we're announcing today that Canada's new government will temporarily suspend the federal fuel excise tax from next Monday until Labor Day. We're also removing the fuel excise tax on aviation fuels. This will remove up to 10 cents per litre on gasoline and 4 cents per litre on diesel fuel. Combined with our earlier elimination of the consumer carbon tax, our government will have reduced fuel prices on gas by up to 28 cents per litre. That's real relief for you and your family at the end of the day. Now, to be clear, today's cut to the fuel excise tax is a responsible, temporary measure consistent with what it takes to build a stronger economy, a more affordable economy, combined with sound fiscal management. When Canadians are facing financial pressures, they carefully manage their expenses, and they expect their government to do the same. That's why in Budget 2025, we made responsible choices to save Canadian taxpayers a total of $60 billion over 5 years. We're spending less on government operations so Canadians can invest more to build a brighter future for all. That responsible budgeting keeps your interest rates down, and it ensures we can protect the programs that make life more affordable for those who need it the most, including childcare, dental care, pharmacare, and school food programs. In the coming weeks, the Minister of Finance will present the Spring Economic Update with the next steps in our plan to build a stronger, more independent, more resilient Canada that works for all. En cette période de bouleversements mondiaux, les Canadiens et Canadiennes se rappellent les enseignements de la dernière année. Nous devons prendre soin les uns sur les autres, les unes et les autres, pardon. Et nous devons nous entraider. We know we can't control what other countries do. We can control what we choose to do. And we choose to build a Canada strong for all Canadians. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Maintenant, on passe aux questions. Première question, Gillian.
Hi, Prime Minister. Gillian Piper with Global News. You've been able to obtain a majority in large part thanks to 5 floor crossers, which the Conservatives have labeled as anti-democratic. Are you concerned the way you got your majority will erode Canadians' trust in our democracy?
Well, first, I'd point to the election results last night. We have a majority now in the House of Commons, thanks to the electors in Scarborough Southwest, in Terrebonne, and in University-Rosedale. And as concerns individual deputies who make a choice to support the government's program at this crucial time for the country, whether they're from whatever political stripe, orientation, geographic region they come, consistent with the government program, we're fortunate to have them, and we're moving forward together with them.
But the by-elections last night were in Liberal holds, so you didn't get any new seats.
Well, I mean, Terrebonne, as-tu vu, Terrebonne, normalement, c'est... Ouais, c'est... OK. dans le jugement du Cour suprême, ce n'est pas un liberal hold. Premier point. Deuxièmement, c'est la tradition, c'est un résultat différent. Et en ce qui concerne, dans tous les cas, la proportion de vote pour le Parti libéral a augmenté, a fortement augmenté. Alors, it's a strong vote in favor of those individual deputies, and I would remind that we are in a parliamentary democracy. Canadians elect the deputies. We're fortunate that we have 3 outstanding new deputies as part of our governing caucus, Dolly Begum, Daniel Martin, and Tatiana Auguste, and that we accept the results, as I said at the start, with both humility but also determination, because it's a vote for the government's plan, those deputies, and for the government plan. We know we need to continue to work with all parliamentarians. We will do so. Work with all premiers, which we will do so. Work for all Canadians.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Mickey with Politico. The Finland president is in town. We saw you running with him in London. You both love ice hockey. You also quoted President Stubb in your Davos speech. So what do you value most about your friendship with President Stubb?
Well, wow. As in my role, I mean, he's a remarkable individual. He has many talents. He's a triathlete as well. I'm not going to be doing any triathlons with President Stubb. That would be quite embarrassing from my perspective. But what we value as a country is the deep relationship we have with Finland, the alignment we have on just a huge range of issues, from the coalition of the willing to support Ukraine, to helping to develop out of this disorder, and I don't think that's too strong a word, disorder in the international system, to rebuild a better system that works for the people of Canada, the people of Finland, the people of the world. And we will have quite extensive discussions both about specific bilateral areas of cooperation, but also about how we can build stronger together.
Now that you secured a parliamentary majority, do you have the mandate you need to govern, or will you call in an election in response to those who suggest the majority is not legitimate?
Well, I refer to my earlier answer. We live in a parliamentary democracy. Canadians elect deputies. Deputies vote with their conscience and support the program that they see best for their constituents and for the country. We do have a parliamentary majority now, and that is the product in the last 24 hours of strong support, increasing support for those deputies, the Liberal candidates, in those 3 ridings.
So not considering calling an election?
Not considering calling an election. Absolutely. I think very clearly Canadians want government to govern, to take action on immediate concerns such as today, which is what we're doing on affordability. And I would note that the first thing we're doing as a minority government is continuing to attack affordability challenges that we know Canadians are facing while we're building a stronger economy. So we have that ability to move forward, and we'll continue to work with Parliament in order to put our plan in action. Monsieur.
Prochaine question.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. Déjà, les conservateurs vous aidaient et ne faisaient pas beaucoup d'obstruction dans les dossiers économiques. Donc, vous n'aviez pas de problème à faire avancer ces dossiers-là. Maintenant que vous avez une majorité, concrètement, quels sont les sujets, les dossiers que vous allez faire, que vous allez accélérer et que vous aviez besoin d'accélérer?
Merci, M. Noël, pour votre question. Alors, il y a plusieurs priorités, mais je vais souligner 3. Premièrement, l'abordabilité. Alors, la première initiative, c'est ce projet de loi. Ce sera une Ways and Means afin de réduire la taxe d'excise fédérale sur l'essence et le diesel. C'est le premier aspect. Deuxièmement, le logement. Nous avons un projet de loi devant la Chambre pour la Maison Canada. Il faut avancer ce projet-là. Et des grands projets d'accélérer l'approbation, de mettre en œuvre des grands projets de contre-cœur, de côte à côte du Canada. The question in terms of economic priorities, I'd say I'd highlight three. In fairness to Mr. Noel, it wasn't specifically on economic priorities, but it was the preamble. First, affordability. There's this initiative here that goes directly to affordability concerns. Secondly, working to accelerate our housing program and our community build program. There's a bill before the House on Build Canada Homes, the structure for Build Canada Homes, which will help accelerate at scale these projects. And thirdly, the large projects. But I'd add one more, si je peux ajouter une quatrième. Et ce sera donc la mise en jeu économique dans quelques semaines. On met l'accent pour un Canada des initiatives afin d'assurer que le progrès du Canada bénéficie tous les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. Okay, so we're putting in place, to put it in English, we're putting in place a series of measures. Some will have short-term payoffs. Many will have payoffs in a few years. The bigger projects, the bigger initiatives, we have to change fundamentally our economy to be stronger, more independent, more prosperous. But we want to make sure that those benefit all Canadians. And in the spring update, which the minister will in due course announce the timing for, and the initiatives, of course, in that, you'll see more emphasis on taking where we're going with the economy and making sure that it benefits all Canadians.
Vous avez maintenant une majorité, vous avez des nouveaux députés, vous avez du temps devant vous maintenant, 3 ans si vous ne déclenchez pas d'élection anticipée. Songez-vous à un remaniement ministériel d'ici l'été et pourquoi?
C'est pas dans mon plan d'avoir un remaniement ministériel. J'ai eu la chance d'avoir un cabinet très capable. Il y a beaucoup à faire. Et c'est dans un sens, M. Noël, c'est un point en général. On veut gouverner, on veut agir. Il faut avancer. Ça, c'est le mandat des Canadiennes et des Canadiens. Oui.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Kate McKenna from CBC. I just wanted to push you a little bit on that question from my colleague. Some of the things you mentioned, housing, gas tax, major projects, these are all things that have received either rhetorical or legislative support from the Conservatives. So what specifically can you advance that you weren't previously able to advance with the minority government?
Well, we've had a variety of issues over the course of the Parliament where things have taken longer than they necessarily would, where debates have been more performative than actual around debates around substance. I don't want to read into the record, although other deputies in Parliament did read into the record their love of cats and dogs and but these are examples. These are real examples in committee. You get the pleasure of covering committees, and I ask you, and I say this as someone who's testified to committees in front of the Canadian Parliament and in front of the UK Parliament for decades. There is a difference between real testimony, real substance, getting to issues, debating aspects of law, advancing. That's the job of parliamentarians, and showboating. We're going to have less of that. We're going to have more substance. I think all parliamentarians, in the end, will appreciate that, even if it's a change for some of them. Ça c'est un changement d'attitude, de manière, dans le comité, par exemple. Voudriez-vous une réponse en français ou non? Oui, OK. OK, ouais. Mais il faut écouter. C'est pour vous, monsieur. Alors, mais non, sérieusement, c'est un aspect, c'est un changement de la gestion ou la manière des communautés, d'avoir des débats de substance, pas de performance. Et on a vu plusieurs exemples de performance en automne, mais c'est le temps d'être sérieux. On va être sérieux.
Follow-up?
Oui.
Some of your bills have been criticized by senators, opposition, for including they call them poison pills. What checks and balances are going to exist for you now that you have a majority government Some examples might be the lawful access in former C2.
Lawful access, that would be lawful access that's supported by virtually every law enforcement agency in the country. This is an exceptionally important issue. We all know how we communicate, increasingly in different channels of communication. And the fact is, and I'll give you the example, I just spent a number of hours with Peel Police in their serious crime unit and on their action unit that's working against home invasions, extortions, auto thefts. The biggest thing they want is lawful access. So this is not, this is a serious point, if I may, Kate, which is that this is not a poison pill. These are important issues. And that is a framing of an issue that is tying the hands of police forces behind their backs unnecessarily in this time. Now, we will go through processes for any bill, certainly any bill related to the criminal justice system, with debate in Parliament, with serious committee discussions, not about cats and dogs, but about lawful access, the implementation of it and others. And we welcome that. But then we will take our responsibilities, as all deputies will, as parliamentarians, and vote.
Next question. Question Kessler.
Abigail Beeman, CTV News. On the gas tax,
Yes.
did you get this idea from the Conservatives? No. And will you continue to lean on the opposition for ideas now that you have a majority?
Let me no is the answer, the short answer to your first question. But to your second question, second part of your question, we're open to ideas from anyone. Certainly any deputies, ideas that could come from the Senate, above all ideas from Canadians, from stakeholders and others. That is what governing in a collaborative way means, and governing for Canadians. So if there's good ideas for Canadians, we will look at them and implement them. One difference, if I may, and this is not aspersion on anyone, but is when you're in government, to govern is to choose. And if you're choosing a fiscal measure, such as the gas tax, you're balancing against other priorities that the government has. How well we can continue to fund childcare, dental care, health care with the provinces, how we continue to support the vulnerable. What's the best way to do it? And so what you see today with what we're going to put in front of the House, the Minister will put in front of the House, is a balance which takes an additional revenue that we expect to get, returns it to Canadians for a temporary period of time while the economy adjusts and one would hope while events improve, if I can put it that way, in the Middle East. Yeah.
Follow up.
If you were Mr. Poilievre, would you quit today?
I don't. That's an unfair question. I can't look into the heart of Mr. Poilievre. I respect him as a parliamentarian, as I do the other leaders of the other parties, and we'll continue. I'll continue to work with him and all parliamentarians, as will my colleagues, to advance the interests of Canadians.
Next question. Question Kessler.
Morning, Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. Pierre Poilievre called you badly educated in economics, and
did
he did.
Wow.
Given, so I'd like to hear a little bit about.
Can I take back my previous answer? No, that's a joke.
You can respond to it if you wish. My question, though, is to get your view of how you assess the risk of recession in Canada and the impact on government revenues and people's pocketbooks, given what you just referred to, turmoil in the Middle East that's causing energy and supply chain crunches.
Yeah. So, Ms. McCharles, this is an important and fundamental question. It's something that we think about constantly, and we design our economic response. Myself with the minister and the rest of the cabinet, we design our economic response with that in mind. There is an enormous shock in the global economy that is undergoing right now because of the conflict, and we have to assess what's the best approach given our core plan and what can we do in the short term. And so we're balancing support for Canadians with the measure today, with responsible fiscal management and reinforcing the plan to build Canada strong on housing, on community infrastructure, energy infrastructure, new ports, et cetera, that is restoring investor confidence, both here in Canada and globally. We're rated one of the most attractive places now for foreign investment. I think we're going to see more of that. That's going to help create jobs for Canadians and keep this economy growing. I would note that literally in, the last hour or so, the IMF has just released its forecast for the global economy. Canada is rated by the IMF as the second fastest growing economy in the G7. You will have seen in the last 2 months of GDP data a return to growth of the economy after a short period. So return to growth there, forecast to be the second strongest in the G7. Clear plan that's addressing short-term issues in terms of affordability, which are real, but also staying the course, reinforcing that investment that this economy needs. And I just maybe finish and hand back, which is that we have to grow this economy to create the jobs for Canadians, and it's absolutely clear, it's been reinforced again by the events in the Middle East, we have to make our economy stronger and more independent. And if there's a unifying theme in our economic strategy, it's strength and independence. And so we'll continue to do that, and that becomes self-reinforcing. And I can tell you, based on you can put an adjective in front of my economic education, economic experience, that is the type of strategy that really pays dividends. It compounds to the benefit of Canadians over time, and that's why we're sticking with it.
Sounds like you're not anticipating a recession. But
no, we expect to be clear. I'll be absolutely clear on that. The economy is growing again, creating jobs. We want it to grow faster and build. We've got to make these big investments. That's why it's so crucial. That's why we are grateful for the support of the voters in Terrebonne, in Scarborough Southwest, and in University-Rosedale. But the expectation, even in the wake of one of the big economic shocks, is that Canada will be the second strongest economy, fastest growing economy in the G7 this year and next, and that is the view of the IMF just released hours ago.
Thank you. You talked about accepting this majority mandate with determination, humility and determination. So I would like to know, you addressed the question about not calling an election, but I would like to know, are you a one and done majority mandate Prime Minister?
Oh mon Dieu. Aucune idée. Honestly, no idea. I mean, look, we get, Canadians have placed their trust in this government. We have a responsibility to live up to that, work every day to implement our policies, the right plan for the country, to grow the country, and that's what we're going to do. Not thinking ahead beyond that. Nor Canadians want us. We're here to do a job. We're doing a job. We didn't go out and celebrate last night. We were working last night on finishing touches on this, other aspects of the spring economic statement, which you'll see in due course. First thing we're doing is focused on affordability for Canadians. We're going to keep building. I'm meeting. Thank you, by the way, for the question about President Stubb. That's an important meeting. It's an important meeting because for our security, it's an important meeting for relations within Europe. It's an important meeting for Ukraine. And yes, we will play a little hockey this afternoon, so it's important for us because we get to hang out with the Ottawa Charge for half an hour. Thank you.
We're coming up on time, so we'll do last question, dernière question.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
On prend deux questions, Madame Buzeli. Oui.
Laura Osmond with The Logic. On the excise fuel tax, how much do you expect this to cost, and why have you decided to go with such a broad measure, which has been criticized when the Conservatives raised it as unnecessarily expensive and difficult to reverse? Why have you decided to go with this rather than more targeted measures for people who need it most?
Well, we did, this is targeted within the overall gamut of things we can do around fuel charges. So it's targeted in a couple ways. One, it's, as I said, but just to repeat for those joining late, if you will, it's until Labor Day, from Monday until Labor Day, so it's a finite period of time, basically a little more than 4 months. It's an obvious time when Canadians are traveling a bit more. And by the way, I'll just add that the fuel tax for aircraft fuel is also included in this, so for domestic flights it's relevant for that. So that's the first point, it's targeted. It is, the provinces also have excise taxes on fuel. So ours is 10 cents on gasoline. The provincial average is about 13 cents. That's obviously a decision for provinces whether or not they want to do something targeted. And when you look at, again, to have a balanced approach, and we don't know exactly where, obviously, energy prices are going to be, but the cost of this measure, Minister, is about $2.4 billion. So it's a, this is a big decision in terms of fiscal expense, and so we balance that given the situation. The Canadian economy, where the Canadian economy is, where commodity prices are, it's a little more than we expect the uplift from the growth in the economy, but it's basically a recycling of higher money that we expect to get in. We're not assured of that, but higher money we expect to get in and back to Canadians. So in that regard, in our view, and this is why we spent time on it and very deliberate about it, we didn't just say get rid of all taxes on gasoline and let's spend $9 billion as if we can, as if we're not in government, which is actually what you do say when you're not in government. But when you're in government, you have to choose, you have to balance, and this is the balance we've struck.
I also wanted to ask you for an update on the Alberta MOU negotiations. A lot has changed since that initial MOU was initially signed, especially with respect to what's going on in Iran. Has there been a change in calculus at all about whether the Pathways project makes sense for all parties?
I would say that plus ça change, plus ça reste la même chose. Oui, like it reinforced what's happened. In many respects, has reinforced the motivations on all aspects of the agreement. It's reinforced the importance of energy security here in Canada, but also in our potential partners, including very much in Asia. So there's even more interest in what the Alberta Agreement could unlock. It's also reinforced interest in the overall energy transition, of which the Pathways project, your specific question, can play a part. So we're making good progress. They're very constructive negotiations. These are serious, detailed discussions. Negotiations, but really discussions, because we're not just advancing specific projects, but we're setting up the framework for major investment in Alberta and across the country for decades to come.
Dernière question. Last question. Hélène.
Madame.
Hélène Buzetti, les coop. Juste revenir sur cette annonce aujourd'hui. Quelle garantie avez-vous que les pétrolières ne vont pas prendre l'espace que vous libérez avec ce dissous, le litre? Est-ce que vous avez obtenu des garanties?
On n'a pas des garanties, mais on reliait sur la concurrence, la transparence et l'expérience. Et en ce qui concerne le dernier, quand nous avons enlevé la taxe sur le carbone, tout le montant a été passé, en effet, transféré aux consommateurs canadiens. Mais on va suivre de près, OK? On va suivre de près la performance des sociétés.
Mais c'est déjà arrivé en 2022 que le prix de l'essence a atteint 2 $ le litre. Si cet automne, après la fête du travail, le prix est encore élevé, comment vous allez faire pour la remettre, votre taxe? Est-ce que vous n'êtes pas coincé?
Non, on n'est pas coincé. OK, on commence par dire on n'est pas coincé. OK? On aura du temps afin de faire d'autres choses, d'autres initiatives, afin de grandir, d'améliorer la situation économique des Canadiens et Canadiens. Alors, mais c'est une mesure absolument temporaire, mais une mesure temporaire, mais importante.
Merci. Merci. Faire la conférence de presse.
Merci beaucoup.
Press conference. Thank you.
Okay.